greatest interest to your firm, and then what value do you believe a strong cluster can offer to the manufacturers in the region? I encourage you to write down if you got ideas for those two things, and on your way out of the room, you can put it up on the glass. So what can the consortium do for your firm on the left, and what activities the strong cluster support on the right? But let's open the floor just to hear comments. Actually, I'd love to just go around the room, the individual companies. You want to start your reaction to what you've heard, and we'll just start right here. Your name, your company, and
Here?
Sure.
Oh, my name's Glenn Harding with Merrill Lynch.
Oh,
I'm
so
talking to the manufacturing people.
okay. How about Fulton, either Jim or Mark?
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of the needs are very similar. With manufacturers, we're all struggling with the same thing. Cost in Europe is one thing you said. But I also think the talent and access to talent seems to be where we struggle the most. I think that we're not short of ideas a lot of times, but we're short of capacity to execute those ideas. And that, I would say, is our biggest challenge.
Jim Miller.
Well, I think one of the things you can offer is training. Training.
Is that what? So is access to talent what the new climate would raise as being kind of the key thing that?
Well, obviously we have several different levels of training, types of training, either in the manufacturing or on the engineering side. The engineering side, I think we're pretty much on our own. Or through some of the colleges in-house. But for training for manufacturers, side of the business. And actually, you have to talk to Eddie about the other part.
Okay. Bob?
Can you, talent and training, can you put that a little more, training for what? You're looking to train machine operators, you're looking to train metrology, what are you looking to train, what are you looking to?
Well, it depends on what part of the manufacturing industry. If you're trying to vertically integrate some of your facilities, then you're going to need to have a different capacity for operating different machines than you've got now. You've got the training for just running a shop, manufacturing.
So you're talking
Organization,
classroom, OJT, skills or knowledge?
I think it's knowledge, experience, what you need. I mean, for our firm, we're expanding and we're getting into areas that we haven't been before. I don't have the background in manufacturing. Some of us in our company have a little more than what I do. I'm just the engineering side.
I'm really trying to get my head around this because I'm not sure I understand. But let me describe a couple of different training. Okay, you have a community college which is going to teach a person with good mechanical skills how to operate a CNC milling machine. They'll give him some skills in computer technology. They'll give him some skills in cutting tool selection, feed speed, those kind of things. Now you take that person and you hire him and you put him in your factory. Then you need to train him to do the work. Because operating a milling machine isn't doing the work. You've got to use that skill to do the work. Do you normally do OJT in place to train that person? Are you looking for someone with the skills that they got out of the community college? Or are you looking for someone to come in and take that person and train them on the job?
Well, at this level, we've been training on the job right at this point. We're looking to expand that, to getting into more complex manufacturing.
We take that question and apply it to other manufacturers as well. So Fulton, what's their ECR? Fulton?
Yeah, so I would say, coming out of coming out of school, out of a trade school, running a CNC machine, not so much of a problem on the job training, getting familiar with your products and things like that. I think where we struggle is getting people that can understand the bigger system of manufacturing, as far as taking that from one step to the next step and being efficient at it is where it becomes a challenge. So, lean manufacturing skills, things like that, especially in our area, it's challenging to hire somebody with 10 years experience. So we tend to hire a lot of new and young engineers coming in. The reality is they don't come in with this mentality of you're a business, you have to make money in order to survive. They come in with seems like very discrete skills, but not necessarily understanding the entire process.
When you say Lean Six Sigma?
Yeah.
Yeah, I concur. It's tough to recruit mid-career people into this area for a whole host of the reasons we've talked about. And coming back from a trade fair a couple months ago, I was talking with a former colleague of mine, and he says, the challenge with some of his younger engineers is they think everything's manufactured in China. They don't know what a manufacturing floor is. They've never seen an assembly line. So the idea of them working in engineering a product that has to be manufactured, when they can't go out and see, oh, this is how they actually do it. I can't put that bolt there. I can't do this because of this, that, or the other thing. They don't see the connection between what they're designing and what's being built. So that becomes more of a challenge in this area, finding people who appreciate how something has to be physically made when they're designing.
So on this second question that we raised about the value of the cluster, so several companies have raised the challenge of recruiting talent. So that recruiting is happening, each company is out there on your own, using your networks and finding individuals. Is there a value opportunity? Is there a way that kind of saying, boy, in our region, in upstate New York, saying about the weather being a challenge, is there an opportunity? I mean, look at all these companies that are here locally. It's not just, you're going to come and work for Fulton or Bitzer or ECR or Cryomec, but if things don't work out for you, there's some other companies in this area that also would be a good place to work. Has that been tried?
No, but I think that's a good idea. I mean, for the creative core, we could be the thermal core, and if it doesn't work.
Oh, the thermal core. That's it.
You need your thermal underwear in the winter.
So we should have ads with people wearing thermal underwear and proud of it.
Can I show of hands for all the companies in the room? Who here has job openings for engineers that they are applying for? Okay, so I'm going to guess that experience level is between 5 and 10 years of experience, or is it all across the board, entry level, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, then plus from that? Is that correct?
They're hardest to find, the
No.
seasoned ones. They're the hardest ones to find.
So
The young ones are not actually that hard to find.
Right.
There's plenty of colleges around here, you kick them out, but they only stay for a couple of years.
And they move on.
So they want to go to California or something.
Right.
So what if the cluster paid for a sort of a headhunting function, but then brought any candidates to everybody?
Yeah, we probably all have very different needs of what we're looking for, different types of engineers, but, okay.
Or maybe you see 20 of them.
So access to headhunters that are supported by the cluster can.
Yeah, but one that could informationally interview all of you and really get to know your needs, and then sort of bring a whole pool of candidates over a 6 month to a year period, something like that.
I think that would be helpful. I mean, about a year and a half ago, we hired an HR person specifically to recruit for us, and that's what she does pretty much 80% of her time, which is fairly expensive on our part. So going to all the different career fairs at the colleges, doing things locally, advertising constantly on the lookout, and just bringing in a constant pool of people, not only for engineers, but for folks to model makers, tool makers, machine operators, the whole gamut. All those people are difficult to find. It's not just the engineers.
Good point.
Bob?
We had this conversation once before, but it never went anywhere. And I think I was maybe with Tara. But what would you think if there was a program where this group went to the universities, the local universities, Syracuse University, Cornell, Clarkson, wherever, and put out a mailing to graduate engineers that are 5 to 10 years out of school, Because what we found is a lot of times the engineers will go out to California, Texas, down south, whatever. They'll get married, they'll have kids, and they'll want to move back. And they don't know about the opportunities to move back. So if we could target a particular demographic, an age range, and go to universities and do a marketing program to those people, would that be something that might be helpful?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, some of our success has been exactly there, either by chance, that somebody talked to somebody that now they've got children, and they want to move back to the area, make a phone call, and we happen to have that type of position open. And those people that come back tend to stay forever, and they tend to be passionate about the area and do extremely well. The recruiting of somebody that's from California or wherever, in North Carolina, trying to get them up here, that's a challenge. And then getting them up here and getting them to stay is even a bigger challenge. So really the ones where we spent our energy, we did the same thing. We hired a recruiter about a year and a half ago, full-time. That's all that person does, is interview and screen people, bring them to the upper management. And that's where we have him spend his time as well, is focusing on those type of people.
So I want to pick on Gaga. So you just came to the region. Where'd you come from?
From 120 degrees Fahrenheit in summertime.
Why'd you come here?
I'm in a transition. I originally went to school in Kentucky, so I thought it was a big deal, but now I realize that it was really moderate weather there. And I stayed for a while doing consultancy business in Atlanta. The company I work for right now, Healthway, I used to be their distributor overseas in the Middle East and Asia. So when I decided that, for other reasons, my kids and my family, my wife is originally from North Carolina. She wants to go back home. So I said, okay, let's go back home. And I worked a couple of projects with the Cleveland Clinic, but then they stopped. The company asked me if I would come here. Now they tricked me, bring me in May, you know. And when I came here, I liked the school, the commuting. I was going to comment on his earlier introduction of the idea of bringing incentives and link it to the training. So if you really, like we have engineers, our fresh graduates, I train some of them on certain areas, If we create a training program, that in addition to an incentive, that when you're mid-career, you get to build up. I used to travel thousands of miles away to get my certification in LEED and indoor environment quality and other things, and it's a great budget to spend. If you provide this kind of idea of training and incentives to bring people to manufacturing, Center State New York, that would be a good idea to merge these two things together. And I think that one of the ideas we're working on with Center of Excellence is collaborating on some of the testing and verification with them, as well as some of the modeling softwares that our company has a business thing that's too much to invest in one software, for example. And the engineers we have need it, for example. So that's just an idea, brainstorming. For me, the commuting was the hardest part, and finding a space. In the South, you find plenty of options to rent a space. Also, talking about thermal, heat efficiency and your bills and all this stuff, from boilers to air conditioning in summertime and all this. Yeah, it could be, I don't know why there isn't a big developmental section of housing developers, okay, that goes around the area of clusters of manufacturers and helps facilitate good facilities for people who are newcomers, just like the Silicon Valley. That's just another idea.
Pick on Falk Precision.
Precision, Dennis Barrett. I think one thing we should do, and we try to do as a manufacturer, is work closely and early with the customer base, so we can learn what the product needs to do, how it performs, try to keep the costs down, look at tolerancing it, don't over-tolerance something, and that way the cost can stay out of the product rather than trying to work it out afterwards. So it's something we do on a daily basis.
Your innovations.
Ed, on the topic of getting the right talent into this group, this cluster, now if we're talking about the thermal core or this environmental control group, COE had been very, we have been championing this group, I brought some people from Brazil, I brought some people from Singapore to come here and visit this place. They were amazed. It's a great, the lead building is wonderful. How this ATM modules work upstairs, that was a carriers upstairs. And then they said, how did you get all these people together? They thought we have a kind of consortium here, organized in counties. And the reason I said that is they were surprised that we had this group, but it is actually not connected. The models, what I see overseas, is I came from Singapore, the aerospace park. They have a standing agreement for the participants in that park. Let's say all the CEOs of here, of this group, agree that we will not hire away our competitors or even our cluster member talents. Then they are very open to collaborating for training together. That is something that I think we might explore, because that gives the comfort. That in itself will form the cloud. You will attract better talents. As this core, we are respecting each other. If not competing, I don't know if that's workable in the United States legally, but certainly is a workable model in elsewhere.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think that one of the things that makes, say, the Silicon Valley attractive is I think there's a culture of moving around. And,
Yeah.
and that makes it attractive for a person to know that, if things aren't working out, I can go across the street. So I think there's a double-edged sword. I think there's a problem that we've identified. And for this side of the room, I think we're committed to work on it. So this is why we're thrilled that we called you together today. You've actually elevated a need that we hadn't included in our application, and we've got flexibility to go back and figure out how we're gonna work on that need. Have Anoran in the room. So now Anoran, we have. So we're talking about the thermal and environmental control systems cluster. There's another big cluster in the region. It's about electronics and instrumentation. So we have a radar cluster in town, or a defense cluster in town. And Anoran is kind of coming into this. So Anoran is kind of a central point in the cluster that we call electronics and instrumentation, but you're targeting for some of your products an application in this domain. So we're thrilled that you're here and want to talk about.
I guess you could call it cross-clustering, I guess. So Anoran, we market our technology to the space and defense industry. That's our legacy. A few years back, we got into wireless communications, so we've got components that are in base stations along the thruway and electronics. So it's handhelds up to satellites into defense products. But increasingly, wireless is becoming important as a means of communication in sectors like this. So we would be a component involved in systems such as you folks have been describing. For me, and I'm the fluffy marketing advertising guy, I do not have an advertising or engineering background. For me, the most value I get from this is I'll go back and yell at my sales staff. And we tend to, I spend $500,000 a year trying to market a new product line, which is targeted to HVAC and lighting systems, wireless control, those kinds of systems. And so I spend a lot of money every year with this new product line the last few years, trying to reach out of the Syracuse area to contact new customers all around the world. And there's this bucket of people right in this room who are very intriguing to me. So I think we need to do both. I mean, we have to look further afield, but sometimes maybe it's a sea change within our own organization. We sometimes have to look maybe a little bit closer to home. There are competencies and OEM products and things being built that we could work with right here, and probably some new things could result from that. So.
Clark?
Yeah, actually, probably mirror some of the comments made by my colleague from Anoran over here, but it's really just because we're, well, half our company is probably marketing, where we're a distributor for various products related to the HVAC world, primarily on the filtration side. We're also a manufacturer, so those are finished products that we need to get to the market. Again, my background is primarily marketing and sales, but really so the products that we represent, you all can purchase from us, but we also produce and represent products that can be attached to your units on the filtration side. Interestingly enough, our filters are in this building here. I was very involved when they were when they were building this facility, and Syracuse University is a good client of ours. But it just is, and thinking about some of the challenges, from my side, it's just creating a higher awareness. We primarily sell in New York State, but our products that we manufacture, we can sell really anywhere in the world. So, again, kind of a similar challenge, which is bringing the products to market, but also creating an awareness amongst my peers here as well.
Air innovation?
One of the things that I always see with a new group, and it's funny that it's new because we're all from this area, but is there's a huge amount of value just getting to know each other better. I mean, going through presentations, I'm in a CEO group and we tour each other's facilities, and it's striking what you learn and what comes out of that. I mean, always something comes out of it. And so just getting a bit of knowledge of each other will always drive certain level of opportunities. I agree, we all often look too far away, not close enough to home here. So I think that's certainly a huge value that can start ideas forming. At our standpoint, where do we struggle? We're a pretty small company that's trying to push products all around the world. So that's expensive. It's expensive from a regulatory standpoint. Getting China certifications that we're going through right now is an incredible hurdle. Very expensive, very time consuming. We struggle with financing new innovations, so we partner up with NYSERDA and local areas, but you always are looking for ways of helping to finance new product innovations and pushes to market. Those are some of the biggest areas. I mean, we also struggle financing people, but I'd say it's more the finding the customers and driving new products is probably the bigger hurdle for us.
Thermal rise?
Well, our challenge is finding money, which is plain and simple stated. And it's not pleasant thing to ask for money. But without the money, you cannot do it. We have spent quite a bit of money. We have a core component that can change basically most of the HVAC products, end products, downstream. And we are ready to manufacture. We have the custom machines, we have the patents, we have the R&D lab. We just need perhaps $500,000 to start manufacturing, and it has enormous potential. It has been recognized by entities other than me, nationally.
Any other comments before we break to go out and, yes?
I have one question. I'm Vijay Srinivasan, Public Relations at the university. I thought I heard a couple of the companies mention that you have a need for R&D, research and development. So as a university, or first of all, as companies, have you thought about coming together as a consortium to do some fundamental research or do fundamental work at the university, such that the base platform technology or platform innovation then can be used by multiple companies differently? And this is stuff that's being done through, for example, NCMS. So a while ago in a previous life, I worked for General Motors, and we routinely cooperated and collaborated with the Fords and the Chryslers and all the area companies in Detroit. And under the auspices of the Air Force's National Center for Manufacturing Sciences, without breaking any antitrust laws, we were able to collaborate on fundamental research done by the companies jointly. And then every company was able to take it away and use it or apply it in a slightly different manner. So I'm just curious if that would be appealing to you.
Let me take that one if you don't mind. As I presented, we had already invested that $14 million, and we were forced to do that because we didn't have a methodology to collaborate to make that happen. So we needed to spend the money, and the money was spent on infrastructure. So I'll give you another example. So the research and development that we're talking about is hard costed, what I refer to as hard costed. As an example, we built our test lab, brand new test lab.
Now, because of regulatory issues, we are now required to test a full battery of units. To make a long story short, we have to now increase the size capability of testing a product that has a 3 million input. What does that mean? It means we have to spend another $150,000 to run larger size pipes, increase a gas main service into our building. I mean, these are not soft technologies. This is really hard infrastructure work that we need to do just to maintain our product offering. Not even grow it beyond anything, but just to do what I'm going to refer to as general maintaining of what we have here. We do have a need for what I would refer to as software modeling. Why? Because it's a lot easier to model heat exchanger designs and things of that nature than it is to try to say, okay, what are we going to do on paper, build it, and then find out now we've increased our length of R&D test time. That's just from my perspective.
Thanks very much. Thanks to everyone again. I'm going to invite you to go out into the hall, and we'll take, like to do this again and again and again. So if there was value in coming together to learn about one another, we're happy to take volunteers for future sessions. Jim, we do those. Oh, what to do with your stickies? So stickies on the way out, the Post-its. You can put what can the consortium do for your firm on the left, and what activities could a strong cluster support on the right. You can stick them right on that easel, or you can put them up there on the window. So thanks again for your time.